horrifying car crashes in F1 to date. Some classics.
Oh no!
Some you did.
Battle, and there's locking up in a crash, and Fernando Alonso goes over the top there.
It's funny to think how 7 years later, driving without crashes like
It's wheel to wheel, Hamilton.
Yuki Tsunoda. Did he roll? He did. Wow.
spearing into the barriers before flipping a total of 4 times before...
Oh, we got a roller there. There we go, and at the front of it.
51 Gs, 67 Gs, 75 Gs. These aren't just telemetry numbers, they are the exact mathematical forces that should have killed Max Verstappen, Romain Grosjean and Robert Kubica.
Now they're going to stop the race!
When Formula 1 goes horribly wrong, survival isn't luck, it is aerospace engineering. Let's peel back the carbon fibre and expose the physics behind the most violent crashes in racing history. The 51G missile. To understand the sheer violence of a Formula 1 crash, we have to start with one of the most famous incidents in modern history, the 2021 British Grand Prix at Silverstone. Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton were locked in a fierce title fight, refusing to give each other an inch. As they battle going into Copse Corner, Hamilton gets a strong slipstream and dives down the inside. Verstappen refuses to yield and turns in, resulting in contact that instantly breaks the Red Bull's grip. The car is sent flying off the track and straight into the barriers. The telemetry from the car registered a terrifying 51G impact. To put that into perspective, an average person passes out at just 9 Gs. Verstappen experienced nearly 6 times that force in a fraction of a second. He was taken to the hospital for safety checks, but miraculously he walked away without a single serious injury. He survived because the carbon fibre tub he was sitting in, the survival cell, did exactly what it was engineered to do. It acted like an armour shell, absorbing the deadly energy so his body didn't have to. The 75G Kinetic Bomb. But if 51 Gs is the threshold of human endurance, what happens when you push those boundaries even further? We have to look at the 2007 Canadian Grand Prix. On lap 26, Robert Kubica lost control, his car skipping across the grass at an estimated 300 km per hour. He slammed nose first directly into a solid concrete barrier. The telemetry recorded an absolutely staggering 75G impact. At 75 Gs, the kinetic energy is so violent that internal organs can literally tear from their moorings. But watch the crash in slow motion. The car completely shatters. Debris and wheels fly everywhere. To the naked eye, it looks like a catastrophic failure. In reality, it is a masterpiece of kinetic dissipation. The nose cone is designed as a sacrificial crumple zone. It violently explodes to shed the energy of the crash before it can reach the driver. Because the car destroyed itself, Kubica survived. After hitting a concrete wall at 75 Gs, he was conscious, moving, and escaped with nothing more than a sprained ankle and a mild concussion.
And a big fire there!
Kilometers an hour, the world stopped in Formula 2. Just 18 years old.
Henry Surtees on the helmet, and that has got to be a very...
The titanium inversion. We have seen how carbon fibre crumples to absorb kinetic energy. But what happens when the engineering requires the exact opposite? What happens when a structure cannot yield a single millimetre? To answer that, we have to look at the 2022 British Grand Prix at Silverstone. Just seconds after the lights went out, a chain reaction between George Russell and Pierre Gasly clipped the rear of rookie Zhou Guanyu's Alfa Romeo. The car violently flipped upside down. A Formula 1 car weighs roughly 800 kilograms. Travelling at over 160 miles per hour upside down, the sheer friction and weight grinding against the tarmac should instantly crush the driver's helmet. But as Zhou's car scraped across the track, his head never touched the ground. The entire weight of the sliding car was supported by a single 7-kilogram piece of grade 5 titanium. The horror wasn't over. The car caught the edge of the gravel trap, vaulting completely over the tyre wall and becoming wedged in the catch fencing. Fellow driver George Russell literally abandoned his race, running over to the wreckage to help. The extraction was highly dangerous, as a broken neck was a massive concern. But when they finally pulled him out, Zhou was perfectly fine, merely shaken up by the ordeal. The Halo, an engineering mandate that faced massive backlash when it was first introduced, withstood forces equivalent to the weight of a London double-decker bus, proving that an unyielding shield is just as vital as a crumple zone. Ballistic breach. We have seen how the chassis protects the body, but Formula One cars have an open cockpit. What happens when the danger completely bypasses the carbon fibre and goes straight for the most vulnerable target, the driver's head? To understand the terrifying physics of a ballistic breach, we must look at the 2009 Hungarian Grand Prix. Just ahead of Felipe Massa on the track, Rubens Barrichello's Brawn GP car suffered a failure, shedding a heavy steel rear suspension spring. It bounced along the asphalt and settled directly into the racing line. Massa approached turn 4 at nearly 260 km per hour. At that velocity, hitting an 800-gram piece of solid steel creates a kinetic energy transfer comparable to a high-caliber bullet. The spring bounced up and struck Massa directly in the helmet just above his left eye. The force was so immense that his head violently jolted backward, and he was instantly knocked unconscious. The telemetry showed his foot remained rigidly planted on both the throttle and the brake, shooting the Ferrari straight off the track and into a wall. Massa suffered a fractured skull and severe swelling, but he survived. And he survived because an F1 helmet is not a standard crash helmet. It is a highly engineered composite of carbon fibre, Kevlar, and ballistic polyethylene. While the spring cracked the shell, the helmet's structural integrity dissipated the bullet-like force just enough to prevent a fatal penetration. This single freak accident revolutionised modern safety, forcing the FIA to introduce Xylon, a synthetic polymer used in military body armour, directly into the visor strips, ensuring that modern drivers are protected by military-grade ballistic shields. The 67G Fireball and the Nomex shield. We have analysed the chassis, the crumple zone, the halo and the helmet, but when all of these systems are pushed to their absolute breaking points, they introduce the most terrifying element in all of motorsport: fire. Historically, an F1 fireball was the ultimate nightmare. When Gerhard Berger slammed head-on into the barriers at Imola in 1989 at 280 km per hour, his car instantly exploded into a fireball, trapping him unconscious inside the flames. 5 years later, Jos Verstappen was engulfed in a terrifying pit lane fire, describing the horrifying sensation of being suddenly trapped in a dark, black room where he couldn't breathe. But to understand the modern miracle of thermal survival, we must look at Romain Grosjean at the 2020 Bahrain Grand Prix. Upon contact with the steel barrier, Grosjean's car experienced a 67G deceleration. The kinetic force was so catastrophic that the chassis literally split in two. The fuel cell ruptured, instantly igniting over 100 kilograms of highly combustible racing fuel. Grosjean was not just near a fire, he was sitting inside the epicenter of a bomb. For 27 agonizing seconds, the world watched a man burn. But inside that inferno, a final, invisible layer of aerospace engineering was keeping him alive: Nomex. A modern Formula One driver's race suit is not just fabric. It is a meticulously engineered thermal shield. It is constructed from multiple layers of an aramid synthetic fibre called Nomex. When exposed to extreme heat, Nomex doesn't melt. Instead, the fibres undergo an instant chemical reaction. They carbonize, swell, and thicken, creating a dense barrier that blocks oxygen and prevents thermal transfer to the driver's skin. Grosjean was trapped in a fire exceeding 1,000 degrees Celsius. The engineering calculations of the Nomex suit are designed to buy a driver exactly 30 seconds of absolute thermal protection. Any longer, and the heat transfer becomes fatal. Grosjean hauled himself over the melting steel barrier and escaped the inferno in exactly 27 seconds. The blood-written rulebook. When you look at these isolated impacts, Verstappen's 51 Gs, Kubica's 75 Gs, Grosjean's 27-second fireball, it is easy to praise the engineering of a single car. But the true terror of Formula One is that crashes rarely happen in isolation. In the 1998 Belgian Grand Prix, heavy rain masked the track, resulting in a blind 13-car pileup mere seconds after the race started. Car after car smashed blindly into the metallic heap. During the 2003 Brazilian Grand Prix, a literal river formed across Turn 3, acting as a hydroplaning trap that sent world champions like Michael Schumacher and Mark Webber violently into the tyre walls, scattering lethal debris directly into the path of oncoming drivers like Fernando Alonso. In these chaotic, multi-car catastrophes, survival requires a symphony of engineering. The crumple zones must absorb the first impact, the halo must deflect the flying debris, the Xylon visor must stop the shrapnel, and the wheel tethers, which famously failed during Sebastian Buemi's bizarre 2010 practice crash, when both his front tyres exploded off the car under heavy braking, must keep heavy metal from becoming ballistic missiles. Every single piece of carbon fibre, titanium and Kevlar on a modern Formula One car exists for one chilling reason. Someone, at some point in history, almost died without it. The F1 safety rulebook is quite literally written in blood. For the last decade, the FIA's relentless pursuit of aerospace engineering has allowed the greatest drivers on Earth to walk away from the impossible. The cars became heavier, wider, and incredibly robust. But in 2026, everything changes. The sport is demanding lighter cars, smaller wheelbases, and an unpredictable 50-50 electrical power split that is already forcing drivers to mathematically drag the cars on the straights. We're about to enter an era where cars are lighter, harder to control, and electrically unstable. Have we finally reached the limit of the survival cell? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. If this telemetry breakdown shocked you, drop a like, share this with a fellow F1 fan, and make sure to subscribe to the F1 channel so you never miss our next paddock deep dive. And if you want to understand exactly why the grid is terrified of getting into the 2026 cockpit, click the video on your screen right now where we leak the exact data exposing the FIA's multi-million-dollar mistake.